My name is Zach Arnold. I'm a Hollywood film and television editor, a documentary director, father of two, and creator of Optimize Yourself. Since beginning my career, I have battled attention issues, anxiety, and creative burnout more times than I can keep track of. Back in 2005, after almost losing the battle with suicidal depression, I decided that I no longer wanted to sacrifice myself for the sake of my career. I was done barely surviving. I wanted to thrive. Since then, I have obsessively searched for every possible way to optimize my own creative performance. My journey is far from complete, but I have now made it my mission to shorten your learning curve so you can forge your own path to greatness without having to sacrifice balance in the process. Now it's time to start designing the optimized version of you. Hello and welcome to episode number 31 of the Optimize Yourself podcast. If you're a first-time listener, then I'm grateful to have you with me, and I appreciate you prioritizing this time in your day to focus on creating just a little work-life balance and sanity for yourself despite this crazy world we live in. If you enjoyed today's interview and it inspires you to take positive action in your life, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast in iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or whatever app you prefer, because I have tons of great guests, giveaways, and free training coming your way on a weekly basis. Just visit optimizeyourself.me/subscribe to make sure that you don't miss future episodes and to access our index of past episodes. If you are a keyboard monkey like me who loves to escape the dark room on weekends and get dirty in the real world, i.e., you consider yourself a weekend warrior, then you are going to love today's episode as much as I do, because this interview blends two of my favorite passions, creative work and obstacle course racing. My guest today is Nick Montgomery, who's a film editor who likes to run around in the mud and lift heavy things uphill for fun. He maintains that his lifestyle balance of pushing creative limits in storytelling while also pushing physical limits in the outdoors and in the gym has been the key to avoiding total burnout at both. And if there's anything that I know something about, it's experiencing burnout. Having lived most of his life as a world-class couch potato, Nick has experimented with many fitness, nutritional, and workplace lifestyle trends to find ones that have worked for him. And while there is no right lifestyle choice for everybody, he believes that you can realistically achieve many of your goals in life without having one interfere with the other, as long as you're honest and mindful about the path that you have to take. Nick and I dive deep down the rabbit hole into what it truly takes to prioritize regular exercise and balance it with a demanding day job. And we also chat about the power of mapping out your priorities and living life with intention. And no doubt that is way more than you bargained for when listening to two nerds talk about running through the mud. Am I right? Now, as a special bonus for this episode, if you're a weekend warrior and you're getting ready for your first obstacle course race, whether it's a Spartan race or Tough Mudder or something else, I've put together an OCD-worthy checklist of everything that you need to pack to get ready for your race. You can find this list at optimizeyourself.me/Spartan checklist. If this interview convinces you that movement is the key to feeling better and generating more creativity during those long days at your desk living in front of a computer like me, I invite you to learn more about enrolling in my Move Yourself online learning program, and that is at optimizeyourself.me/move. And this program contains this interview as well as 10 other expert interviews just like it. When you join the waitlist for the program, which is opening soon, I will send you several free training videos that have simple tips to help you introduce more activity into your daily work routine without requiring any extra time. And I'll even send along some bonus training videos that have some super simple stretches that will help you alleviate common forms of pain that you get when you're sitting in front of a computer, including neck pain, shoulder pain, and lower back pain. Now again, if you want to learn more about signing up for upcoming enrollment, all you have to do is visit optimizeyourself.me/move. And now, without further ado, after a brief break to recognize our sponsors, my interview with Nick Montgomery. To access the show notes for this episode, just visit optimizeyourself.me/episode 31. This episode is made possible by ErgoDriven, the makers of the Topo Mat and Topo Mini, my number one recommendations for anybody interested in moving more at their height adjustable workstation. Listen, standing desks are only great if you're standing well. Otherwise, you're constantly fighting fatigue and chronic pain. Not like any other anti-fatigue mat, the Topo is scientifically proven to help you move more throughout the day, which helps reduce discomfort and also increase your focus and productivity. And they're really fun and a great conversation starter too. To learn more, visit optimizeyourself.me/topo. That's TOPO. This episode is made possible by the Human Charger, a revolutionary new light therapy device made specifically for people who spend long days in the dark and don't get enough sunlight, i.e. you and me. Simply put in the earbuds for 12 minutes a day to receive your daily recommended dosage of UV-free white light. Doing so can drastically increase your energy, improve your mood, and increase mental alertness and focus. This device has literally changed my life, and I use it every morning without fail. To learn more, visit optimizeyourself.me/humancharger, and you can use the code OPTIMIZE to get 20% off your order. I'm here today with Nick Montgomery, who is a motion picture film editor, as well as a guy who likes to run around in the mud and lift heavy. So, that having been said, I have a feeling that you and I might have a thing or two in common that we can talk about today. So, Nick, it is a pleasure to finally get you on my show.
Well, it is a pleasure and honor to be on your show, sir. And honestly, you're a little to blame for my tendency to run around in the mud and lift heavy, because I do believe when I was first getting exposed to the whole OCR thing, I kept hearing it a little bit from you, and you were a fellow editor, and we're also involved in OCR, did a couple OCRs, and we're pretty inclined to pay attention to your fitness, and so yeah. You're to blame.
Well, I love hearing that. That inspires me. I'm glad to hear that my madness got somebody else into this. For anybody that's listening that's like, I already don't know what you're talking about, OCR stands for Obstacle Course Racing. And when I first started my program several years ago, when it was still Fitness in Post, which was Fitness for Film Editors, I used to really talk about and go deep into my hobby and love of doing obstacle course racing, which includes things like Spartan races, Tough Mudders, Rugged Maniacs, and there's like 15 other spin-off companies, most of which I've never really done their events, but they're everywhere. So if you just put in OCR, obstacle course racing, any type of search like that, you're going to get a whole lowdown on all of this stuff. But the cool thing is that you've taken it way further than I have. I'm still very much just a weekend warrior. I do 2 or 3 a year. I'm never really in good enough shape for them. They always exhaust me afterwards. And then I see all the things that you're doing on social media, and I'm like, okay, this guy is just embarrassing me at this point. So you're doing, amazing stuff with it. And I definitely want to talk about the whole process, why you're into that. But before we really go deep into the weeds, I kind of want to summarize where I'm hoping to go today for people that are listening, because it's very easy to alienate people that are creatives that sit in front of a computer and have them think, well, I could never do this, and this just isn't for me. So today's episode just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to listen to it. I heard that a lot from people when I first started my program, when I would do presentations, and they would say, I loved all the stuff where you talked about health and, editing and moving more and standing up. But then I saw pictures of you in like the Spartan race or doing whatever. I'm like, no, that's not for me. And you kind of alienated me. And it made me realize that I was just approaching it the wrong way, because they thought it was all about, well, I'm going to be a musclehead and I'm going to get strong and I'm going to lift tires and climb ropes. But there's so much more to it as far as how it just helps your general well-being, your mental health, your ability to withstand stress. So I guess what today's conversation is going to be about is helping creatives like us who are locked in front of our computers for the vast majority of our waking hours to learn how this is beneficial, but then more importantly, how the heck do you actually balance a really crazy job editing and training. So I guess where I want to start after that whole preamble is just help people understand a little bit more about what does your regular day look like? What do you do for a living? What's your schedule like? And let's just get a picture of the typical day. Then we can start diving in a little bit deeper.
Ooh, well, a typical day for me, I'm a freelancer, so occasionally I'm on contract for a specific client, or other than that, I'm just hunting for the next job, doing edits for commercials or films, kind of daily or weekly. So it does vary quite a bit. But nowadays, I work a longer contract job in Toronto, which just to give you an idea of a commute, it's an hour and a half train there and back each day for me, and working at an office with other editors, other creative types all day. I wake up at 5 o'clock, so I go to hit the gym, sneak in a gym session really, really quickly. Hop on the train, get to work for 9, work till about 5, hop on the train, come home. I have just enough time to eat dinner, an hour, for myself pretty much, to either, watch some Netflix or to get caught up on some other work or read a book, or do some yoga or something like that. And then back to bed. And that's what I do Monday to Friday, pretty much. My weekends are reserved for me, for traveling, for going to races or going to see family and friends. But that's pretty much, the really simplified schedule of my life.
Well, the one piece that I don't hear in there, I think, is the one thing that you and I don't have in common. I didn't hear the word kids.
No. So I think that's, I'll say, for lack of a better word, a benefit for me that does make it a little bit simpler. Because yes, kids will, I imagine, and you can speak to this, takes an enormous amount of your time, not just of your daily time, but also like your mental energy. And it's a factor that also tends to take your schedule and just say, well, let's change all this around and turn it on its head. So you have to change on the fly as you go. So no, I do live just by myself, but part of my daily, weekly routine is still trying to manage to fit in time, social time with family, with friends, which I think everybody also, struggles to fit in as well, with the hope that someday, maybe, in a year or two, the pitter patter of children will also, flood the halls around here. So I don't know.
Well, and I certainly am not making any judgment at all. I just wanted to make sure that in going through your routine, for those that are listening that don't have kids, they can see, oh, wow, he works a full-time job, but he's still able to train, get out. Like there's a lot of good balance there. But for people that do have kids, I didn't want them thinking, well, wait a second, is he doing all this and he has kids or he doesn't have kids? Because there's no way that I could do it because I do have kids. And for those that have been listening to the show for a long time, they know that I have 2 young kids as well. But my training regimen is much more compact because I don't have as much free hours in the day. So I have to be a lot more efficient with the hours that I do have. And we can dive a little bit more into that in a bit, like actually talking about OCR training, becoming a weekend warrior. But what I'm really interested in, and I wasn't planning on talking about this at all, but I just had this impression that you were a work-at-home freelancer that had a lot of control of your own schedule. So it's really interesting to hear that you're now dealing with this long commute during the day and you're working in a corporate environment. So I would love to know, what are some of the things that have come up that you've been like, whoa, this completely changes my training schedule or just changes my mental attitude during the day? Having seen both of them fairly recently, I'd love to know some of the contrast that you've experienced.
Well, this year was kind of interesting for that because, for the first half of this year of 2017, I was more working at home all the time and never had to go into an office. So my office was home and my schedule was immensely more flexible because literally you dictate your entire day as it will unfold, as long as you're responsible with when the work gets done and when you fulfill your duties, the rest of the time is yours. So the first half of this year it was very, very focused more on training. I'll say it was less on work and more on racing because last year I went to World Championships, wanted to return this year, and that goes down in October, and so I had the year to build up towards this. And so for 6 months, I trained hard and, my schedule was all over the place. I didn't have very much structure to it at all. I just kind of, I went to the gym when I felt like it. I ate when I felt like it, and I did work when I felt like it. And it all just sort of fit together. I still did the responsible things like wake up in the morning, map out my day, say, from 10 to 12, I'll do this. From 12 to 2, I'll do that. But it was open to more flexibility just because, I didn't have a job to go to, I didn't have a family and that sort of thing. Then halfway through, and this is what I was going to talk about in a little bit, was, having a plan, but being prepared to throw that plan out the window. About halfway through the year, I got offered a job in Toronto, which kind of changed everything, flipped everything around, because that meant, okay, you're now not working at home, you're doing the daily commute, working in an office, you're doing all these things that you've never really had to do for a job before. And that means your time is going to be reduced down to an itty little bit part of the day. And it made the struggle for, fitting in all the things that I wanted to fit in a lot harder. So I had to make some compromises. But in doing that, actually, I would say I learned a lot more about how to effectively build your day and how to really make the most of your day and how to fit in the things that really matter to you, rather than having all the time in the world. So because I'm pretty sure you would also say, like, having the strains in your life of job, of the podcast, of your family, of your friends, of everything, as you learn to deal with all the different aspects of your life, of your day, you kind of get better at each one. Does that make sense?
Oh, not only does it make sense, but very much have I heard from other people that when they have these constraints, it makes them much more focused on prioritizing certain things. Because if you have your entire day to yourself, it's like, I can do anything. So what should I do? I'm just going to watch TV because I can't figure out what I should be doing with my time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when you have these constraints and you're like, all right, I have all of these things that I want to do today, this week, this month, but I have a finite amount of time to do it. That means that I have to be very intentional about what I am doing when, so I can achieve these things around this other giant 800-pound gorilla, which is my job. And just as soon as you said mapping out my day, a smile came on my face. And anybody that knows me is like, oh God, he's going to be talking about this forever. Because I love this kind of stuff. Because it's so important to really think about, what am I actually going to be doing with my time? How can I be intentional with it? Because the worst thing that you can possibly do is wake up in the morning and say, what am I going to do today? Mm-hmm. By the time you wake up, you should already have a pretty good idea of what your day looks like. And if it's going to be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and you're already kind of lower energy and you're, brain foggy and things are slowing down, that's the worst time to be thinking, what should I be doing right now? When you're at your best, and it's going to be different for anybody during their given circadian rhythm during the day, when you're at your best, that's when you want to think about, what should I be doing during the day? At 4 o'clock, when I know I'm going to have brain fog, what are the things that I could accomplish when I'm super, super low energy? What are the things that I should be doing in the morning if that's my time of day to be really creative? But when you have all of the time in the world, you don't really have to pay attention to your energy rhythms and when you're creative and when you're not creative, and when you should go to sleep or not go to sleep, or when should I write or when should I edit, because you can kind of do anything whenever. So it sounds like you certainly had this experience of, wait, I now have a much more limited amount of time, so it's time to get organized.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit. It's kind of like adding more purpose to your day, more purpose to your time, which was a big part of what was missing for me earlier on, which I know actually shouldn't have been, because if you said it, if anyone's been listening to you for years, then as you tend to talk about or geek out big time about things like, the Trello system and mapping out your day and being really efficient with your time. I can't claim to be a fan of yours and say, well, I don't use Trello, or I don't map out my day. So I thought I had a good handle on stuff like that before, but it was the new job that really kind of pumped it into overdrive and really, really minimized my day down to, a couple of hours. And so I said, okay, well, if I want to hang on to these things that really matter to me, if I want to hang on to time with friends, if I want to hang on to my fitness goals, then I really, really need to learn how to be extremely efficient with how I map out my day and with what little time I have remaining. Otherwise, I may have to let that go. And I think that a lot of people who say, like, well, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to wake up in the morning and go to the gym, or I don't have time to meal prep for the week. Some people, yes, I will say maybe the strains of life really, really do play on you, and you don't have time for that. But for the most majority of people out there, that's kind of bull. You have to learn to say, like, well, you have to make time for it, rather than I don't have time. A lot of people just are really saying, I don't make time for this. A lot of people have a lot of time in the day that they have free to do things that they want to do, like go to the gym, like spend time with their kids. But there are already flaws with how they map out their day, with how they allot their time. So there are a lot of things that people could be doing to make their day much more efficient, to free up time to be able to do the things that they've always dreamt of doing.
Yeah, I could not agree with that more. And I'm glad that you said the whole thing about, not having time being bullshit first. So I didn't have to do it. So I can say it in a much more eloquent way and not be hammered for saying that. But I do agree with you 100%. I've recently been working with people one-on-one doing coaching and mentorship and career coaching and stuff. And somebody had said, well, I really, really want to do this, but I can't find the time to do it. And I said, we're going to stop right there. You don't find time, you prioritize it. If you're saying, I just can't find the time to do this, or I just don't have the time to do that, yes, like you said, there are a select few people, especially those that have newborns and full-time jobs. Guess what? You just don't have the time to do anything. I know, I was there. Like, you genuinely don't have the time. But for most people, you're just not prioritizing the time. And that requires setting aside a block where you can say, I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm going to plan. I'm going to prioritize, and I'm going to say like you said, what is my purpose, or what is my intention? What are the goals that I have that I want to achieve this day, this week, or this month? And when am I actually going to be able to do that? So if you really want to see somebody that is intentional with their time or their priorities, that says, I've got this together, all they need to do, show me their calendar. If I see on your calendar that you have blocks of time for doing this thing, doing that thing, or doing a review process, whatever it is, that's somebody that's prioritized their time. But if you live in reaction mode and you're thinking, oh, well, I have all this stuff to get done, and I've got some free time in an hour. So when that hour comes, then I'll see if I can figure out what I should be doing. And then you waste the first part of that hour thinking about what you should be doing. And then when you can't figure it out, the rest of that hour is spent scanning Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah. And try to be truthful, I guess, is what I'm hearing from you, is like, be truthful and honest with how you are already spending your time, shining a spotlight on how you're already spending your time to be able to find those parts of the day that should be, better planned out. So, because I know that, with your Trello system, it's pretty efficient at, mapping out your days, duties, and stuff like that, so that you know exactly when you're going to do this, when you're going to do that. There is no downtime. There's no time for you to just, okay, I'm going to go browse through YouTube, or I'm going to go fiddle around on my phone and go through Facebook for a little bit. There is no downtime like that, because that there's always something that you should be doing. You know exactly what you should be doing, so that stuff gets done.
Well, see, and it's funny because there I actually disagree with you some. And the reason is that when I tell people about my Trello system or whatever task management system I'm putting together at the time, they're like, oh my God, well I want to be creative and I just want to flow when I feel it. I can't be stuck to a schedule. And if I want to scan Facebook and I feel like doing it, I should do it. And it scares people to think, oh, well, Zach never has downtime. And that's totally not true. However, I'm intentional with my downtime. So I'm not sitting there thinking, well, it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I've got tons of energy, but I don't really know what I should be doing. So I'm just going to go on Facebook or YouTube. I know what I should be doing creatively at 10 o'clock, because usually for me, from about, 7 in the morning until about 12 or 1, I'm super hyper focused, creative, and productive. And if I'm just working from home, that's when I'm doing a lot of writing or building products. And if I'm editing, that's when I'm doing writing at home before I go to work. Then I go to work and I do my editing. But then I know I'm going to be a little bit lower energy. So I'm just organizing my day contextually, thinking if I have really low energy tasks, I can do those in the afternoon. Or if I just want to spend half an hour reading a Facebook newsfeed, fine. Like, I'm totally cool with that, because I'm intentional about the fact that I want to do nothing right now. So that's my choice. But what that alleviates is the guilt. The guilt of me thinking, I know I should be doing something right now, but I would rather just be wasting time, as opposed to, you know what, I've done the things that I want to do. I'm just going to waste time right now. And it's the difference between, well, I really know I shouldn't be eating this piece of birthday cake, but I'm going to eat it and I'm going to feel guilty and feel horrible afterwards, and I'm going to hate myself. Or
you have that birthday cake and you're like, man, that was delicious. I enjoyed it. I don't feel bad at all. And there's a big difference there.
Yeah, and actually, sorry, I should have clarified that a little bit. I guess, yeah, there is a difference between the downtime where you see as time being wasted, where if you look back on it the time of day, at the end of the day, and you think, I shouldn't have, why did I spend an hour YouTubing or doing this or doing that? That's not what I should have been doing. Whereas, like, there was a time when actually, like, going to the gym for me, in my mind, mentally, I was feeling guilty because, like, I should be working. Why am I not working? And, this is not work. This is not furthering my career. This is another goal of mine, but, to become more fit. But, I feel guilty. Why? Why is that? And, until you change your look at, like, well, no, that is, going to the gym is part of your scheduled intended downtime. You do that so that you can get away from the desk, that you can, unwind, you can focus on a different task, that you can focus on something that you enjoy, so that you can go back to work with a fresh mind, so you can be more creative. You've got more juice to get you through the day. You're happier. You're going to be, brimming with positivity, spreading that positivity to others. There's there is more intention behind that versus time just spent twiddling your thumbs that you didn't schedule, and you look back on it later and think, well, that wasn't a good use of my time.
Well, speaking of use of your time, let's talk a little bit about your exact process. Like whether or not you use Trello, trust me, I won't be judgmental, don't worry. But I am curious, now that you have this very limited amount of time and you have what sounds like a really, really fun commute for 3 hours a day sitting in a train, I'm wondering, what is your daily routine and process for prioritizing your time and your tasks?
Well, if I don't do it the night before, the morning of when I wake up, I need to be able to sit down at the breakfast table and map out my day. And I've actually got a pen and paper system. I found that is pretty efficient for me. As long as I have it written down, that is the most important thing to me. So whether it's, in an app or pen and paper or whatever, if you're good enough at just mentally blocking out time, going through the process of saying, okay, so here's how the day is going to go from this hour to this hour. I'm going to work on this, going to work on that. Usually in about 1 to 2 hour blocks, 2 hours max, because I find like after 2 hours, that's when either I really need like a long-term break, or, that I've done whatever damage I can. I need to move on to something else. And yeah, so that by the time I get up from the breakfast table, I already know, even once I get into work, even once, the commute is finished and I get to my desk in Toronto, I still have to be able to, schedule out the time throughout the day of like what I'm going to be working on. The boss gives me stuff to do. He doesn't tell me when to do it. He just says, I need you to work on this, create a sizzle reel for that, edit this episode, have it on my desk tomorrow. And okay, now I need to take that and figure out, well, how am I going to spread this out over my day so that all the work gets done? So just having that game plan in the morning changes everything. And because there are days when I miss doing that and my whole day is sabotaged. And I don't know what system you use, but I'm sure you notice a big difference when you haven't mapped out your day, when you aren't being very aware of how you should be spending your time. And you think, I'm just going to wing it today. I don't have much to do. I'll do things as they come at me. And your day just doesn't end up being nearly as productive when you haven't gone through that process.
Well, it's really is the difference between living in reactive mode or living in intentional mode, where even if you map out your entire day, whether you're doing pen and paper, no judgment whatsoever. Obviously I love my Trello, but I want people to do whatever works. If it's pen and Post-it notes, whatever works and makes it happen. I do just a combination of Trello and my calendar. So I will look at my calendar and usually have different colored blocks, so I understand what it is that I'm going to be doing throughout the day. But I very much notice the difference when there are days when I either have to sleep in because I didn't get enough sleep because I worked late, or I'm recovering from doing heavy training, whatever it is. And there are days, just like anybody else, where I'm like, I just don't feel like doing this. I'm not going to plan. I'm just going to figure it out. I'll be fine. And then you just feel like the day starts to pile on you, and you feel like you're reacting to everything rather than saying, all right, well, here's my plan. Even if I deviate from it because something comes up that I wasn't expecting, I was kind of predicting that this thing might have happened, and I kind of have a plan B. So for example, I'm working with somebody that was trying to build the habit of exercising more. And they had said, well, I really want to exercise after I leave work at 5 or 6 o'clock. And I've set up this thing at the spin class and another thing at a yoga class, and it's great, except now they changed my work schedule. Now I can't exercise anymore. I was like, well, no, you can still build the habit of exercise. You just need a plan B. You need to say, if my work schedule changes and they ask me to work later, I just need a backup plan. And part of planning your day, whether it's the night before or it's the morning of, I will ask myself, and I will say, all right, what are some of the obstacles that could get in the way of me reaching my goals today? And it could be X, it could be Y, and it could be Z. Great. So, how can I overcome those things if they happen? That way, I spend my entire day still intentional, even if there are deviations. But on the days when I don't do it, I just kind of feel like a zombie. And I think that one of the things that is paradoxical about this whole process is that people that are highly, highly creative, where they just live for being in creative flow, doing creative work, they say, oh my God, it sounds so exhausting to have to do all this planning. I just want to be free and do things when I feel like it. But the problem is that it's actually more exhausting to not plan. And this is coming from years of my own personal experience, that when you don't plan, that's when you get exhausted and you don't feel like doing the creative work and you can't snap your fingers and get into creative flow. But when I do plan my day, I have no problem turning on the computer, standing in front of it, and just getting right in the zone for hours at a time. So I don't know if you've experienced that as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm just sitting here nodding my head. You can't see because the camera's turned off right now. But yeah, because especially when you mention the word obstacle, like that for some reason just like perks my head up. Because yeah, I do find that happens, but also I want to mention, because a lot of people seem to tune out or like turn off when they hear the whole idea of like, oh, I have to do extra work now to plan out my day or to plan out this or to plan out that. Like, that sounds like such, it seems like a lot of work, a lot of hard work that I need to put into that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to jazz it. I'm just going to, I'll make it up on the fly. But think about it this way. If you come up with a plan, what you're really doing is you're reducing the number of choices that you have to make. So when you have, let's say, a meal plan prepped for the week and you've prepped all the food and it's all sitting in the fridge, now at no point during the day, you have to think about, what am I going to have for dinner? It's already sitting there, ready for you to heat up and go eat. When you have a plan of how your day is going to unfold, when you know, like from this hour to this hour throughout the day, exactly how your day is going to unfold, then there should be very little time in that day for you to ever think, so what should I do now? It's already done for you. So you don't even have to expel any further energy to think of like, what's going to come next? What should I be doing now? Which that taxes you immensely. So like as a creative person, I found that as soon as I started doing that and mapping out my day and reducing the number of choices that I had to make, even down to like what clothes I wear in the morning. If you aren't making as many of those choices do kind of tax the mental energy that you have for the day. So if you reduce the amount of choices that you have to make throughout the day by mapping your day out, by planning all your meals, by walking into the gym with a game plan of exactly what exercises you're going to hit, then that's more energy that you can spend for everything else throughout the day.
Basically, you're putting yourself on autopilot. That's what I'll tell people, is that all the decisions that I don't want to make, I've made in advance. I'm on autopilot. So I'm conserving energy as much as possible. And I'm not talking just physical energy. This is what we're really talking about, is mental energy. So when I do finally get in front of the computer and I have 8 hours worth of raw footage for a single day of shooting, and I have to cut all of that in a 12-hour day, which, by the way, was my Monday, I have the energy and the capacity to focus and do that because I haven't wasted all of my energy thinking, what should I be doing this morning? What should I have for breakfast? What am I supposed to do for my exercise today? Should I be planning my day this morning? I don't know what I should be doing this afternoon. What am I doing on Friday? I haven't thought about any of that. All I have to do is go through these simple steps that I built as a habit, show up at work, and then that's kind of when I quote unquote wake up. I get in front of the computer system and I'm like, bam, I'm turned on, and for hours at a time I can go because I've conserved that energy. And where I want to dovetail to next, which you pulled out so eloquently, is this idea of obstacles. Because you and I are a rare breed where not only do we have some of the resilience to the obstacles that might come up during our day, but we pay really good money to have people throw us in really awkward, somewhat dangerous situations to overcome these obstacles. And I want to talk a little bit about OCR, training for OCR, but more importantly,
how that helps to build stress resiliency for all of the obstacles in life, well beyond just trying to, climb over a muddy hill or pick up tires.
Wow, you hit a lot of tasty keywords there because like mental resiliency and I was just eating all that up. And I actually should have led with this at the beginning, because I know that a lot of people may start to tune out once they hear that, oh, who's this guy that Zach's talking to? He doesn't have a family. He's a contractor, so his schedule is a little bit flexible. And, he goes to the gym when he feels like it. Okay, that's not for me. I'll say that until I actually discovered OCR, I was never, ever, ever up for any physical activity whatsoever. And so this really changed, finding OCR really changed my life for me. Sorry, it's cliche as hell, but also like for my fitness, it changed a lot for me, but it also is incredibly applicable to everything else that I go through day to day. It was very applicable to my career. It was very applicable to my social life. And for that very reason, it teaches you a lot about how to approach literally an obstacle, figure out how to get past it, deal with the frustration of learning of how to get past it and failing over and over and over again, and being satisfied and happy when you do overcome something that you've been working to overcome for some time, and then reveling in that celebration with other people who are going through that exact same thing all around you. So like I won't say that's the reason I got into it, but that's the main reason why I stayed into it. Like, is that something similar that you get from Spartans? I've never actually asked you, Zach, like why you ever got into OCR in the first place, or what keeps you around?
Well, the first time I actually got into it, I was shamed into it. So my sister, who is considerably older than me, you'd never know it, because anytime that we go out, people think that we're either married or I'm the older brother, which is really embarrassing, because she's like 14 years older than me. So I'm like, oh my God, like I'm clearly doing something wrong and she's doing something right. But anyway, she's really into athletic competition, and she's run several marathons. So she always embarrasses me when it comes to physical stuff. And this was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, right after I'd had my first son, and I was doing no physical activity whatsoever. I was super stressed out, sleep deprived, and she had just discovered this new thing called the Tough Mudder. And she had just run one. And as you know, anybody that does OCR, like once they come back, they're just hooked. They're a totally different person. She would not shut up about it. And she kept saying, Tough Mudder, oh, we did this, and I climbed under barbed wire, and I was getting electrical shock. It was amazing. And I'm like, are you flipping nuts? Like, what is this thing? Like, my mom was all concerned. Like, is she safe? And I was like, this is kind of weird. She's like, you totally have to do one. And I was like, oh, man. Now I'm going to have to do this, because she's never going to be able to let it go if she made it through a 12-mile Tough Mudder and I didn't. Like, we just have that kind of a relationship. We're very close, but we're also very, very competitive with each other. Like, great. Now I'm going to have to do this stupid Tough Mudder. I'm going to have to get dirty. So I forced myself to get through all of P90X for the first time, because I'd failed the first 2 or 3 times before that, because P90X is brutal. And this was one of those cases where I actually did not have the hours in the day to go to the gym. So I just decided I'm going to do P90X at like 10 o'clock at night, which for anybody that wants to train, don't train right before you go to bed. Horrible idea. I didn't know any of that 6 years ago. I've learned all of this since then. But I did P90X and I did the Tough Mudder. And it was the same transformative experience for me, where you really get to know yourself a lot better and how you deal with stress and how you deal with obstacles. And you get an understanding of your mental toughness. Because one thing that I've learned over the last several years and all of the research that I've done into high performance is that when your body feels like it's given up and you're like, I can't do another push-up or I can't run another mile, you really only reach like 35 to 40% of your physical capacity, and it's all mental. It's your brain saying, I'm tired of discomfort. I'm tired of dealing with pain. Can you please stop now? But your capacity goes so far beyond what you think you can do. And doing these types of events helps you understand what is my real capacity and how can I push through it. And then when you force yourself to push through something that's very, very uncomfortable and you get this second wave of energy, you just feel this sense of being alive that you haven't ever really felt before. And for me, it wasn't even so much about the day of, it was how I felt when I went back into work. And it was kind of like, all that stuff that was really stressing me out, that felt really hard,
this really isn't affecting me that much anymore. Like somebody coming in and saying, hey, we need a visual effects turnover, blah, 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 by 5 o'clock. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I mean, at least you're not asking me to climb under barbed wire, get sprayed in the face with a fire hose and electrocute me. I mean, visual effects turnover doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, this is starting to sound pretty damn good. And and that's, you hit the nail on the head there. It changes the way that you view stress. And I think that's a really, really good reason why a lot of desk jockeys especially are discovering the world of OCR for fun. And they are finding that this is really extremely fun because it changes how they view stressful situations, which they then take back into their regular lives. Because when you go to, and I'm not saying that everybody has to go to OCR to discover this, but just changing the way that you see stress is really, really big. I'm actually reading a really important book right now called The Upside of Stress, where it's all about changing your viewpoint of stress. Instead of it being such a negative thing, a thing that you should avoid, or I'm feeling stressed, I need to suppress this, I need to put it away. Your body, how it's reacting to stressful situations, those are things that it's trying to help you. So as you're stepping up to a wall that you're about to climb over, as you view it, you may start to get a little bit fearful. You may, your heart rate will go up, your palms will get a little sweaty, your brain's going to start firing. Your brain isn't going to wander off and think about other things. It's going to focus on the task at hand. So that's stress, but that's good stress. That's that's the good stuff that's happening to you. So when you go back to your daily job now, you have this different way of approaching a stressful situation. When something, comes, barreling down on your desk and says, here's 10,000 tasks, I need you to have these done by end of day. Normally that might freak some people out, send them into a panic attack, but you can learn how to embrace that stress and use it towards your goals for that day. So instead of this mound of fear that you're looking at on your desk, you can look at it and decide, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle this, and my brain's ready, my body's getting all fired up. I'm going to use this to get through this obstacle that's in front of me.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really, really good point. And one thing that you've probably learned about in this book or either in other research is that stress isn't a bad thing. In this culture, we hear the word stress and we immediately think, oh, this is bad for me. Stress is killing everybody. It's the number one cause of things like, cardiac arrest and cancer. And I have to get away from all the stress. But in and of itself, stress is not a bad thing, and we actually need it. It's our reaction to stress and how much we allow it to control our lives. That's when all of the problems come in. And I'm the perfect example of this on both sides, where I am far from perfect at being resilient to stress. And I've been very, very open about my experiences with burnout and depression, all of which were the results of me not managing stress properly. But by the same token, as I've gone through this process, I've learned better how to manage stress the right way. And there's this process called, and maybe you've read about this as well, it's called hormesis. So there are things called hormetic stressors that are actually things that strengthen you. So exercise, doing squats, doing pull-ups, doing push-ups, whatever it is, that's a stress on your body. That's hard. The reason you're sore is because you're getting micro tears in your muscle fibers. That's why you feel like crap the next day when you haven't exercised for a while. But guess what that does? It makes you stronger. It doesn't break you down permanently. It makes you stronger. It's a hormetic stressor. And if you can find the good things in the manageable amounts of stress and treat them as learning experiences and not have that stress consume you, then you become a stronger person. And in my belief, that's why obstacle course racing, things like Tough Mudders and Spartan races, are so beneficial to your health, because they build your resilience to stress, because you're learning how to fail in a relatively safe environment, and you're getting stronger, and you learn that lesson and bring it into your regular life, and you become so much more resilient to all the BS that you deal with in a corporate environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people have found that was missing from their lives recently. And so this is a fun way, a really fun and infectious way of getting that feeling back, of all these people now going off and running in the mud and going back and telling their friends all about it and being so proud of it. When you first hear about it, it sounds nuts, but then you go do it and you get that awesome feeling, and then you take it back to your daily life and you realize, hey, this is doing something really good for me. This was a missing pie piece that I just got back in my life, and it's doing a lot better for me now, at every other aspect of my life. So I think that's not the contributing reason, but I think we're seeing a spike now of people are getting into more activity now. People are more into racing. People are just more into, being fit in general, trying to be more active throughout the day because they're seeing the benefits like that.
Well, and for me, I mean, the benefits that I've talked about ad nauseum extensively on this podcast and the website and everything else are just the creative benefits and the mental health benefits of moving around more during your day. And I found that when I don't have a race that I'm signed up for, I lag in my training or my need to move around. So I now just kind of hop from one registration to the next. As soon as I finish a race, I'm like, all right, I have to register for something in 3 to 4 months, or I know that I'm not going to train because I have a very limited amount of time to do it. So I now just try to register for, 2, 3, 4, 5 events a year, but I don't go into it the way that I used to, which is that I've got to kill myself training and be super strong and compete. Like for me, it's just, I just don't want to go and massively fail. I want to be able to finish and I want to enjoy myself. So that kind of changes the way that I train a little bit. But that's what I want to get into now is with the time that we have left, kind of digging into the nitty gritty a little bit. And I want to make sure that I have the caveat for those that may not already know. This is 2 film editors talking about training for a Spartan race. So don't think that like I'm talking with a Ben Greenfield about the nitty gritty of all the science and, all the biohacking around this. Like this is 2 film editors talking about how we train for Spartan races. But I think that's helpful for the weekend warriors that are like, I just want to make sure that I don't kill myself. So now that you have very limited amount of time to train and you have to be very focused and intentional, what are you actually doing to train for Spartan races?
Well, what I'm doing right now, and what I had to do right away when the schedule was upturned for me was trying to find the best parts of the day that I had remaining for the things that I needed to do, like go to the gym, rest, doing some mobility and stretching, and when to do a weekly meal prep. So looking at, okay, this is the amount of time that I have left, and also looking at what that time is. Do I have morning time? Do I have evening time? Because as you said, you don't want to be going and hitting the gym an hour before you're supposed to be going to bed. That's going to sabotage your rest, and that'll sabotage you for the next day, and then you're all kinds of screwed. So for a while, actually, I was trying to do that. I was trying to get home and like, okay, I'll eat dinner on the train and I'll go and hit the gym and then I'll come home and then I'll rest. And that just wasn't working. So I had to switch that up and become a morning person, not something I was a fan of, but getting up a little bit earlier, going to bed a little bit earlier so that I could wake up at 5:30, go hit the gym so that I could be on the train, go into work, feeling awesome about the day, by the way, because, once you've gotten that out of the way, your body's all primed and ready. Now I'm ready for the workday. Fantastic. And then by the time I get home, I've got time to eat a proper dinner, to rest, to wind down from the end of the day, get myself ready for bed so I can take advantage of a full resting period, allotting one day each week to not do much of anything at all, to unwind, unplug, so to speak. And also that's my Sunday nights are when I fit in weekly meal prep. So as if I don't get that done, then I'm a little bit buggered for the rest of the week. But so that's why Sunday evenings I allot 2 hours. That's all it takes, to cook all the food that I need for the rest of the week. Then I'm set. I've got breakfast, lunch, dinner. All those decisions are made for me. But becoming a morning workout person, that was the tough shift for me. And to be honest, I'm still kind of getting used to that because I was never much of a morning workout person.
Yeah, trust me, you're preaching to the choir right now. I was never a morning person until recently, and it took me about 6 months to a year to really make that just long-term circadian rhythm shift. But now I absolutely love it, and I feel so much better. If I wake up early in the morning, plan out my day, and I do exercise, I'm a completely different person the way that I get through the day as opposed to when I don't do it. But it was tough because I was a night owl for years and years, pretty much for my whole life. But then it became a necessity because I have family and it was really the only way to do it properly. But what I'm curious about now is what type of training are you doing, given that you have a limited amount of time and you can't devote hours and hours a day to OCR training? Are you doing like mostly high intensity? Are you doing weightlifting, cardio? Like kind of break down in fairly simplistic terms the type of training you're doing with your limited time.
Well, in a nutshell, learned all about periodization. So to answer your question, what am I doing? Am I doing high intensity, low intensity, this, that? My summary answer would be yes. I am doing all of that, but at different points in my schedule. So for a couple of weeks, I'll settle into like a running routine of I'll do 2 short morning runs, which would be like about 5K casual pace, enough to run, but be a little bit winded, can still kind of sort of carry on a conversation if I can, and then do one hard run at some point on the weekend for a longer distance where I'm really pushing myself. And then after you do that for a couple of weeks, before your body can really settle into that, I'll switch things up and I'll start doing, instead of like a casual run in the morning, I'll do hill sprints where there's a hill right by my house. So I'll throw on, a weighted rucksack. I'll throw 25 pounds on my back and I'll go and hit the hill and I'll sprint up, walk down, sprint up, repeat that over and over again. And I'll do that for a couple of weeks. And then I'll do, a week of very little. I'll do like some walking. I'll do, keep it very, very low impact, and then I'll just keep switching things up. Same thing goes for when you're going to the gym. A lot of people go to the gym, they do the same exercises over and over and over again. What you'll find for what is most effective, though, and a lot of OCR racers will agree, is that you have to get your body used to a whole bunch of different things. Adapting to very different things. You never know what new obstacle they're going to come up with. They're going to throw on the course at you, so you have to be ready for not just one type of exercise. You have to be ready for many types of exercises. So for a couple of weeks, if you go to the gym, if you are used to settling into, the same routine, I'll go do, I'll lift heavy weights, but lower reps for about 2 weeks. So I'll do 3 sets of 6 of 85% of my 1 rep max. So I'll squat really heavy. I'll bench press really heavy. I'll really push myself, a little bit of resting time in between each set. And then after those 2 weeks are up, I'll switch it up. I'll go to, higher reps, but lower weight for a little bit. And that's a way that, getting your body used to changing things on the fly, because if you do the same exercise every single day, your body will learn to kind of get used to that. It'll stop growing. You'll cause a plateau because your body now knows, what to expect. So by going through periodization, by switching up your training every couple of weeks, that's what I've learned how to do. So I'll map out a 12-week plan for myself where like for these 2 weeks, I'll focus on, heavier weights, longer runs. These 2 weeks, I'll do this. And then I'll leave things open to, well, I may hear a suggestion from somebody else down the line, like, oh, you know what really works for me? Rock climbing. Okay, so for 2 weeks, I'm going rock climbing. And, skipping the gym, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And, just changing the activity up every once in a while. So I leave it open to, different exercises, different ideas that I may stumble across or people may suggest to me.
Yeah. The key is functional fitness. And that's, I think, a piece that a lot of people miss that are more into the conventional, I'm going to go to the gym and train. Like, you're not going to be running at a Spartan race and all of a sudden they're going to say, okay, bench press max, go. Like they're not looking at how strong are you in one specific muscle group at doing something you've done hundreds of reps of. You need functional fitness for every single muscle in your body, where they may say, okay, now do spider crawls under barbed wire, or you need to carry this 80-pound sandbag up and down a hill, or this bucket of rocks and gravel. Like, it's functional fitness that's going to be using all of the different muscle groups. And if you're just trying to work out the beach muscles and you're doing, curls and tricep extensions, like, you might look good, but you're not going to have the correct muscle tissue and balance of musculature to be able to do these functional fitness type exercises. So you really do just have to vary it up. And I try to get out at least once a week, because for the most part, my training isn't nearly as regimented as yours because I have more limited time. So I really try to get the most bang for my buck. And I do super high intensity interval training, HIIT training, for 2 or 3 mornings a week for only like 25 or 30 minutes. But it is like crazy intense, where in 25 minutes, I'll burn like 500 calories. So it's nonstop, no breaks. And then for once a week, I'll go out and I'll actually go hike in the mountains. And I love that you said the weighted vest, because that's what I do, is I just strap on a 40-pound weighted vest and I just go up and down the hills and put myself in the practical environment that's the same as the Spartan race. But that's pretty much all that I'm able to do. I haven't been on a weight bench or a squat machine or anything like that for probably, 9 or 10 years. And I certainly don't have the types of competitive times at these OCR races that you do, but I finish, and that's my goal. So I don't feel, terribly embarrassed by the results. But it's funny that you brought up rock climbing, because that was one
where I learned from doing these races over and over, you find your weak spots. And you find your weak spots from the mental stress resiliency perspective, like we already talked about. But I was finding my weak spots physically. And I realized that from basically 20 years of sitting in front of a computer, well, I don't really sit in front of a computer anymore, but living in front of a computer all day long on a mouse and a keyboard and a Wacom tablet, my wrists and my forearms had become incredibly weak. So whenever I did the ropes or I did the rings, I was just a disaster. Like those for me are just burpees. I'm just like, all right, I'm doing 60 burpees. I know that it's going to happen. And I said, well, maybe I can do something about that. So I started taking up rock climbing, and I haven't done a race yet since I've done it, but just the difference in my ability to do a pull-up or a chin-up or be able to climb has changed significantly. And what I like about that is, again, it's a lesson you can take to other parts of your life where it's not just about, well, I'm in shape or I'm not in shape. It's more, well, I'm in shape, but there are areas, really, specific areas that I want to get better at. And for me right now, it's grip strength and forearms. But for other people, you can find other areas of your life, whether it is physical or whether it is mental. That's really what this type of training, these type of races allow you to do, is find places in your life where you can improve, which is really kind of the whole theme of this interview.
Exactly. Yeah. Being able to measure out your performance, whatever that may be, and identify, well, where are the flaws? Where am I lacking? Where do I need to focus? So that, next time when you go to prepare, when you go hit the gym, or when you're walking into your next job, exactly what you should be focusing on, what were you weak in last time, and what you can work towards so that you can be stronger in the future.
Well, I seriously feel like we just got started. I'm like, oh, great. Now the conversation has begun and we can really dig in. And I'm like, oh, crap, it's been an hour. So I have a feeling that we may have to record a part 2 in the future. But before we go, I want to make sure that people are aware that not only are you a guest on this podcast, but you, sir, are also a podcaster and have a fantastic show that I really want people to go check out. So tell me a little bit about your podcast.
My lowly podcast is it's called the Command Edit Podcast, and actually. It kind of got started because myself and my co-host Josh encountered each other on the Twitterverse, and there were a lot of topics that he and I would get into that we discovered that were really interesting topics for other people, other editors particularly, to get into. So it's geared towards people who work in the post-production or film industry in general, and so we do sometimes get into talking about the nitty-gritty of post-production, specific applications, and editing techniques. But I try to slip in a few episodes in there about the other things that you don't hear about from a lot of post-production podcasts, like keeping healthy, keeping fit, while at work, improving your networking skills, all that fun stuff as well. So it's called the Command Edit Podcast. I think we're about 70 or 80 episodes in at this point. We try to record weekly, and we try to come up with content that's helpful for people who are sitting at a desk.
And what's the URL if people are listening and they want to just remember it? I'll put it in the show notes too, but just verbally, I want to make sure they hear it as well.
CommandEditPodcast.com.
Oh, well, that's pretty simple. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that having been said, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen. This has been on my wish list for like a year. And the next time that you are in the Southern California area for a race, you definitely have to let me know. I'm a little actually hesitant to run with you because you'd be like really surprised at how out of shape I am at doing these things, and I'd be really embarrassed. You'd be like, "Oh my God, he sucks at this stuff." But it would be a lot of fun to race together and watch you embarrass me on the course. So
you know what, I have been and still am very much looking forward to the day where I run into you on the course and would gladly run a race with you, sir.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Well, this has been awesome, and I appreciate your time being on here today, sharing your story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to episode 31 of the Optimize Yourself podcast. To access the links and resources that were mentioned in this episode, just go to optimizeyourself.me/episode 31. If this episode inspired you to take action and start moving more throughout your workday, I invite you to learn more about how you can enroll in my Move Yourself online learning program at optimizeyourself.me/move. When you join the waitlist, I'll send you several free training videos with simple tips to help you introduce more activity into your daily work routine without requiring extra time. And I'll even send along some bonus training videos that have some super simple stretches to help you alleviate common forms of pain, including neck pain, shoulder pain, and lower back pain. Again, to learn more about upcoming enrollment, which is opening soon, visit optimizeyourself.me/move. Thank you for listening. Be well. This episode of the Optimize Yourself podcast was made possible by ErgoDriven, the makers of the Topo Mat and Topo Mini, my number one recommendations for anyone interested in moving more at their height adjustable workstation. Listen, standing desks are only great if you're standing well. Otherwise, you're constantly fighting fatigue and chronic pain. Not like any other anti-fatigue mat, the Topo is scientifically proven to help you move more throughout the day, which helps reduce discomfort and also increase your focus and productivity. My friends at ErgoDriven did extensive testing and compared their product to the top-of-the-line floor mats, and they found the Topo drove almost 2.5 more moves per minute with 270% more foot motion. Now, what this simply means is that the Topo users move more. I'm standing on one as I read this, and I don't go to a single job without it. And if you're smaller and you're concerned the Topo mat is too big, or you simply don't have the floor space, there's a Topo Mini for that. To learn more, visit optimizeyourself.me/topo. That's TOPO. This episode of the Optimize Yourself podcast was made possible by the Human Charger, a revolutionary new light therapy device made specifically for people who spend long days in the dark and don't get enough sunlight, i.e. you and me. It's not a light box. It's smaller than an iPod Nano, and it fits right in your pocket. Now, no different than listening to music, all you have to do is simply put in the earbuds for 12 minutes a day to receive your daily recommended dosage of UV-free white light. This light stimulates the photosensitive receptors in your brain, which then affects your neurochemistry via neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline. Doing so can drastically increase your energy, improve your mood, and increase mental alertness and focus. This device has literally changed my life, and I use it every morning without fail. To learn more, visit optimizeyourself.me/humancharger and use the code OPTIMIZE to get 20% off your order.